Hello, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to break down essential materials for getting started in oil painting. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be scary. It certainly doesn't have to be overwhelming. From my experience, if I could go back in time and get myself set up on the right foot from day one, these are the things that I would get, no question, hands down. This should be a big help to anyone who's looking to get started in oil painting, and certainly you don't have to spend a whole lot of money up front to get going. You may start this and decide it's not for you. You don't want to have a big investment, but if you buy cheap stuff, it may take away from this initial learning experience and getting started. And that would be a horrible reason not to become a painter, an artist, and expand your horizons. So what I'm about to show you are products that hit all the marks. And again, I determined that these are absolutely essential for getting started on the right foot. So let's get started. You don't need to buy a whole ton of paints. I made that mistake. I bought like 25 tubes of paint, and I still have them, and half of them I haven't even opened. The others I've tried once or twice and I haven't used them since, and only a couple have I continued to use up and then eventually buy more of in bigger tubes. So let's start with the paint. Oil paint is what makes oil painting oil painting. I paint with a limited palette, and I recommend that you get started with a limited palette. One, it's cheaper because you don't have to buy a whole bunch of colors, and two, it's a fantastic learning tool, learning experience. It's a little tricky in the beginning, sure, but once you kind of get the hang of it, you mix colors on autopilot, trying to mix colors to real life, and it's invaluable. Yeah, if you really want to buy 15 tubes of green paint, go ahead, but when you can mix all those shades yourself, why spend the money and why have up these other paints taking up room and creating clutter in your workspace? So we got a yellow, a red, a blue, a brown, and a white. I've selected Cadmium Yellow Medium, Cadmium Red Medium, Ultramarine Blue, Asphaltum, and a Flake White Replacement. These are real cadmiums. There are alternate versions of cadmium colors, which are simulating real cadmium paint. I am a big fan of using the real deal versions if circumstances allow. Since I started with real cadmium colors, I stick with them. Yes, they definitely cost more than the alternate versions. Do yourself a favor, buy small tubes, not these big tubes. Buy, whatever they are, 35 milliliter, 37 milliliter, depending on the brands of these colors. So Cad Yellow Medium, Cad Red Medium, Ultramarine Blue, Asphaltum, and Flake White Replacement. Pretty much every oil paint company that I know of has real cadmium colors, so you can buy from whoever you wish. I recommend maybe sticking with the Gamblin brand. Fantastic paints, fantastic value. Don't buy the student grade paints, just stick with the real artist grade paints. It's a small price difference, and paint lasts a while, so why pinch $3 or $4 when you get a much better paint? Again, it's going to last you for a while. And the results are much better because there's more pigment load in the artist colors. So yes, avoid the student stuff. Even if you've never painted, just buy real artist grade paint. The price difference is negligible. Buy the small tubes. It's not going to make a big difference. So these will be your three primaries. The Asphaltum brown is a super, super dark, transparent brown. In one of my other videos, you can take brown this Asphaltum brown and Ultramarine Blue. You mix them together, proportionally more blue to brown, you can make your own black paint. You can only darken a color two ways. Well, rather, I guess three. You can add blue paint, you could add brown paint, or you can add black paint, which is a mixture of these two. Don't buy too black. Learn to make chromatic black and use that. Use your blues and browns and the blue-brown mix as a way of darkening your colors. It makes for much more richer, vibrant color mixes. Too black has its place, but learn to do it without it. And then here's a Flake White Replacement. This is not real lead white. I know a lot of people have a problem using lead-based paints. It's only dangerous if you eat it. Don't use lead-based paint if you have little kids, because you don't want to risk them getting it in their mouths. That's not good. You could get titanium white too. It's much stronger. I have another video on that. Since you're learning, it doesn't matter. Just go ahead and get either one. I just find this Flake White Replacement to be much more forgiving, and that you can add a lot more of this to your color without overwhelming it with that strong white punch like a titanium white. And this does not have real lead in it. And it's also a lot cheaper than real leaded paint. So that's going down on the list. So these 5 colors will get you started on the right foot. Okay, let me get these out of the way. So then you have a whole lot of talk about mediums, a lot of fat over lean rules, this and that. I've tried all that stuff out, you know, mixes and, you know, then the subsequent layers, getting more and more fat, more and more oil. It's a pain in the neck. I'm not a fan of that. And I'll use what works the best, that saves me the most amount of time, that gives me the best results. So I'm going to recommend these 2 painting mediums. We have Winsor & Newton's Liquin and Gamblin's Neo McGilp. You can buy these in small bottles. Get the smallest ones that they come in. I believe this is the smallest bottle of Neo McGilp. I put this in my travel painting bag because it takes up a lot less space than my giant bottle that I keep in my permanent studio. And then Liquin, this is a bigger bottle. You can get a smaller bottle. These are worth it. Just mix it in. You don't have to think too hard. You can paint layer over layer. It's so much more forgiving than mixing linseed oil and odorless mineral spirits together, and then remembering to, you know, keep adding more and more oil and fat layers onto subsequent layers. I don't have patience and time for that. This is so much easier, and I did a lot of experimenting and practicing to get to these 2. These are my 2 favorite mediums. This Liquin will make the paint dry a little bit faster. Neo McGilp will make the paint dry a little bit slower. So if you know you want to come back the next day and do some blending, paint into paint, go with this. If you want to paint over which will be a mostly dry layer of paint, mix Liquin. You know, if you're going to get one, maybe get the Liquin and then get the Neo McGilp, or get one little bottle of each is what I recommend. Experiment with those 2. A lot easier than mixing linseed oil, stand oil, and all those other concoctions, and just trying to keep track of all the layering rules. Just get this. This will make your life so much easier. You'll have much more fun painting. Okay. I'm going to recommend 2 paintbrushes just to get you started. Nothing crazy. This, remember, the size of the brush, the numbers, this varies from brand to brand, so don't take too much stock in that. I just have these 2, and they're about visually the size that I think every beginner artist should use. Just have one, let's call this a medium size. This is an Escoda Classic bristle brush, in case you were wondering. Both of these are very good brushes, not terribly expensive. I think this is like $10 and this is like $8. These are very high quality bristle brushes. Don't buy cheap brushes. That paintbrushes should be the one thing you spend more money on. I would buy cheaper paints before I bought cheaper paintbrushes. These are your tools. They need to be sharp. They need to work. After all, this is how you're connecting to your work surface. So yeah, I have a number 10 and a number 6. smaller one for when you want to get into a little more details, and then your workhorse, this number 10. These are both flats. Flats are squared, and then there are something called brights, which are just flats, but they're just shorter. I recommend getting the flats if you can. If you use them long enough, they'll turn into brights, meaning the bristles will wear out over time. But this should get you started. Just get 2 paintbrushes. Again, we're keeping costs down. We want to preserve your sanity. If you're painting and you want to change colors, again, I have a video demonstrating that. Take your brush, wipe it off in some paper towel, go into your next color mixture, work it into the bristles, wipe that into a clean spot of paper towel, and then go back into the color. The paintbrush will be ready to go and you can paint. Which brings me to my next point, odorless mineral spirits. This is a gallon-sized container Gamsol. I buy it in this format because it's a lot cheaper when you buy in large quantities, and I'm using it constantly. But for you, I would say, you know, buy it in a small bottle like this, approximately. This is the Rolls Royce of odorless mineral spirits. Do not use stuff that comes from a hardware store. That is harsh, it is poisonous, it is extremely toxic. Not only is it damaging to your health, it's going to be very damaging to your paints and paintings. Do not use it. That is totally different application. Yes, this costs more, but this is specifically made for oil paints. This Gamsol is the most purest of the odorless mineral spirits. It doesn't dissolve quickly into the air. If you have a paper towel soaked with this, you can leave it out all night long. It will still be damp the next day, meaning it just sits there. It's so much more inert compared to the more toxic versions. This doesn't have the VOCs of hardware store odorless mineral spirits. Beautiful stuff to work with. I get on my hands all the time. I get paint, I just soak a rag and I wipe this on my hands. That's personally what I do. You know, I'm not telling you to do that. I've been doing that for a while and no ill effects. This is good stuff. You know, obviously you want to use the right stuff when it comes to painting, and you want to use the best stuff for your health. Go with this, pour it into a container with a cap, a screw on. So when if you really need to rinse out your brush at the end of the day, or you really want to do that before changing your colors, you're going from a dark paint to a very light paint or vice versa, wipe out your brush, get yourself a little cap container with Gamsol, get the brush in there, scrub it out, wipe it out, close the container, one, so you don't spill it, two, and there's no reason to leave this open if you don't have to, and then you're good to go. Next up, we're going to recommend a painting knife of some sort. Many different knives, shapes, sizes. For a beginner, I would say something like this little guy. This is a number 20, I don't know what this is. I got this from dickblick.com. It doesn't really matter. You can get any shape or size you want. The little one's good because you can mix little controlled piles of paint and, you know, not get it, you know, let it get out of hand. And then if you want to experiment grabbing some paint and putting it onto a work surface, you know, this just gives you a little more control. That's why I'm recommending something small like this. Make sure whatever knife you get that the blade part is flexible. You don't want to get something stiff that doesn't move. Always flexible. These are cheap, like $5, $6. Get it. It'll last you forever if you take care of it. And you'll be good to go. Next up, you're going to want to paint on something. This is a hardboard panel, a rather cheap one I got, I think from Jerry's Autorama, and I spray painted it with automotive primer, gray, like fillable, fillable, sandable oil primer, automotive primer. This goes great. You have to seal your surface. Using the spray automotive primer is awesome. Smooth, it's flat, it's quick, it's easy. I don't want to spend hours priming panels. This works great. If it can stay in a car for decades, it can certainly stay on a panel, you know, for a painting that's indoors. So that's a little a tip, a trick. You don't have to buy panels like that. You can buy them already pre-primed. Stick with panels over canvases. You know, they're small, they're light. You want a smooth surface. You don't want the grain of canvases. And to go for super smooth canvases are super expensive, and you don't need that, especially when you're starting off. Stick with panels unless they get really, really big. I mean, I'm painting on a 30 by 40 panel right now. You know, you can go big. But yeah, stick to small panels. You know, this is another example. This is a better quality. This is something called hardboard. These cost more. These come primed. They come unprimed. This is unprimed. So if I want to use this, me personally, I'm going to go with my automotive spray primer. Get this covered, nice, smooth, and flat, and then we will be good to go. This is just an example of another product. You don't even need an easel, by the way. Flat work surface, you're learning, you're going to paint, you know, set up an apple or something, paint from real life. That's how you really learn to get good at painting. Just keep it flat, paint like this, so save money on an easel. When you're ready for it, then you can go buy it. And even then, you just get them on super sale and you don't have to spend much more than 140 bucks. And then finally, I have this laying around. These are disposable painting palettes. I don't use them. I use a giant glass palette on my desk that I do everything on. But these are good. It's pretty much wax paper. You don't have to buy this. You can use regular wax paper or parchment paper. Just lay out a sheet, put your paints on it. When you're done, you can throw it in the garbage. Very easy, very neat, very cheap, very inexpensive. So I think I covered all of the important things here. So yeah, this is to get you started on the right foot. This is to get you painting. This should take a lot of the guesswork out of it. You know, feel free to ask me any questions. I'll be more than happy to address them and help you out. And you got any value out of it, I would ask that you please subscribe, like, and share. It does help out the channel, and I do appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.